So at this point in the project, we have our instruments fully sequenced out, and we have a developed verse and developed chorus. So this is the time where I go ahead and start working with my drums. So like I said, with the instruments, I've saved the time of loading up all my drum sounds. But what I do here is I just go through, usually I start with my own sample collection, and if I don't find anything I like, I'll go to the Maschine collection. But this one I happen to use a lot of Maschine sounds from the expansion pack. What is it? Helios Ray, I think? The one with all the cool vinyl kits. But anyways, I use those drum sounds quite a bit in this project. And what I have here is a kick, a snare, some shakers, a hi-hat, and let's see, a clap, and a ride cymbal. And this pad up here is a send effect. And I will show you how I route some of these different sounds to that effect to get some reverb going on. I have a reverb loaded on here, and that just lets me create different reverb mounts on my drum sounds. So I want to go through the effects I use to sort of design these drum sounds. So on my kick, let's take a look at the effects I have. I have a sampler here, that's just the first one. I have a saturator, compressor, and filter. So the saturator is just going to give some additional grit to the sound. The compressor is just going to bring the level up, and then the filter here is actually taking out some of the high end. So if I bypass this, I have quite a bit of high end attack on this kick, and I wanted sort of a round sound to this kick. So I put the filter on, and that just gives me the low frequencies left over and a nice little kick sound there. On the snare, let's see what I have here. I have sampler and some reverb. And I like to do the plate reverb on snares because I can do the pre-delay up here. And that just is going to change the time in between the sound and then when the reverb comes back in. So if I bring this all the way up, we sort of have that quiet sound right before the reverb comes back. But if I bring this down, it's just a cool little effect that I can use to sort of make the reverb a little bit unique sounding. On my shakers here, these are actually two different samples. I got them from the sample pack, and they're pretty similar, but a little bit different to give some variation to the patterns. And I also have these panned, so if I go into the mixer, I'll go to sound, go over to pan, and I have these slightly panned to the right and to the left, and that just gives a cool stereo effect. And obviously I'm going to play these one after the other in the pattern. On my hi-hat up here, I have, let's see, let's go out here, and I have just transient master. That's just going to make the attack a little bit more pronounced. And I also have a cool waves effect called Mondo Mod, and this allows me to automatically pan the hi-hat between left and right. So this is cool. It's going in on the same road as the shakers here with that cool stereo effect. And if I just play this, you can hear how it moves from left to right. And I like to do this in little amounts just to give the pattern some width. You can get kind of crazy with it, bringing all the way to the left, all the way to the right. But I like to do this in small amounts. That just gives me a cool little width to the overall hi-hat. On my clap here, I think it's just as it is. And then my ride cymbal, I haven't worked with this yet, but we'll go ahead and bring that in a little bit later. Like I said, I have this send effect up here, and I'm going to go into the channel menu to the output option over there, and we can see on the aux send, I have some of these sounds going to sound 16, and that's just that send effect, so I get some reverbs on there. So I have reverb on the clap, on the shakers, and on the hi-hat as well. So I did a tutorial on the Mark II, how to set up that send effect, if you want to search for that and check it out. But it's just a cool way to use the drums and get the reverb sent where I need it to go. So that covers it for all the effects on the drums. On the group, what do I have here? I have a saturator and then solid bus comp, and I have a stereo imager from Waves, and I just have this set so it brings up the stereo width a little bit, just to give some more wideness to the drum group. So that covers it for all the effects here, and I'm going to go ahead and actually start sequencing these in. Before I start recording, as always, I'm just going to play around as the instruments are playing back and find a pattern that suits my fancy. I'm going to go ahead and create a first one over here. Just make this 4 bars long. And I'm just going to start with the kick and the snare. So let's go ahead and get this going here. See what we can do. So oftentimes when recording these, I'll miss some of the hits for the snare or for the kick. So I'll just go into the software and make sure that all the MIDI velocities are sort of in the same range. So it looks good on the kick. On the snare, I have a quiet one. I'll bring that one up. Now that I have my kick and my snare going, I'll go ahead and do the shakers. So like I said, I'll be alternating. And then I'll also layer the hi-hat on top of all that. So let's go ahead and do that now. So that is the basics of the drum pattern here. And this one will be going on to the verse. So I can also go ahead and go to the chorus pattern over here and make sure the drums sound okay with that. To prevent things from getting too repetitive, I'm going to go ahead, select my events for my kick and my snare, clear those and just re-record those, and I'll get some variation going with the kick and the snare. And I think I forgot to duplicate it. Yeah, I forgot to duplicate it, so I'll go back and clear those. Let's delete those and re-record what I originally had. So I just selected these snares and quantized those by 50% and just make sure they're on. So I like how this is turning out. I have my chorus and my verse going, and I have the drums locked in for both of those. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and add the bass. I usually add this after I do the instruments and the drums, sort of a little bit at the end of the process. And once I have the bass going, I can start thinking about some rough mixing and some rough arranging. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that in the next video.